educated, like in Vietnam, their skin color becomes irrelevant. Nevertheless, they have used their attained resources and economic power to build a society using this lie, that white represents beautiful, clean, intelligent, mastery, reliable, disciplined, powerful, developed, modern, healthy, holy, godly, angelic. I mean, you could hardly paint a heaven and heavenly beings using shadows and darkness. It's about light and white. Black represents ugly, dirty, primitive, superstitious, satanic, ill-mannered, demonic, unreliable, disreputable, underdeveloped, naturally stupid, tribal, physical. Something that is trapped and takes pleasure in the body, sexually predatory, and very close to animality. This lie of falsehood attained everyday socialization through the labor, educational, religious, artistic, cultural, punitive, and judicial apparatuses, mainly to normalize and reduce and reproduce a racially exploitative society. For victims of this normalization of racial exploitation, it resulted in a permanent but impossible pursuit of whiteness. We must underscore the reality that in a racist society, all people are white, meaning the blacks, since they are not white, they are not people, and therefore are socialized to live in this zone of non-whiteness, a general state of constant pursuit of an identity you cannot attain. This whiteness, or non-whiteness for blacks, can only therefore be lived through the masks, because it is not naturally possible to attain it. This is because as a racist society, or in a racist society, you either turn white or you disappear. At the risk of disappearing, of being irrelevant, of not having access to any forms of life, blacks have to wear masks to conceal their image. That is their only way of survival. What are these masks? We have to adopt white languages in order to attain education and contribute to the body of knowledge. When we have risen to the highest levels of education and cultural achievement, according to racism, we have colonialism and apartheid to thank. All black brain surgeons, astronauts, physicists, engineers, accountants have whiteness, not their brains, to thank for their achievements. We must be grateful, which results in never questioning the status quo. To appreciate this reality, we must see how a black educational achievement is never settled. You are constantly doubted and you doubt yourself. You suspect that one day the academic institution may actually say it was a mistake to award you the degree. Like a mask, it may fall or it risks falling away and get you revealed that you are just as stupid as all blacks. Nothing is special about you because, after all, physics as a discipline or as a discursive practice, within this discursive practice, you are a permanent foreigner, a part of non-part. We also have to turn against how we look, against our hair and our skin color, against the way we were born, and adopt a general aesthetic of non-whiteness. Relax the woolly hair or shave it off. Cover it with a straight hair looking wig. We have to apply lightening creams from Escamela to the recent and more advanced biogenetic techniques of skin lightening, because a dark skin is really hard to sustain in a racist society, especially for women. This is the same in sports. Think of Serena Williams or even the Brazilian national soccer team. Or in the arts, where a painter like Nelson Magamo or opera singer like Pretty Yende have to battle against the lie that their greatness is due not to their natural talent, but to the white affirmation. They have to battle the idea that art or opera music is a white thing, a pigment affair, when it really is about the skill of painting or the vocal talent of singing. Siya Kolisi, who demonstrates a great skill in rugby, proves that the sport has nothing to do with pigmentation but pure talent. Yet he still gets off the field to battle with those who seek to keep rugby about as a white affair, a sport of skin color. Siya, like Hamilton, like Castas Menya, must be grateful for being included or recognized by these whites and not question the status quo. He must feel special and not ask how come a sport about skill ends up being about skins. However, worse, if Serena Williams becomes the actual historic best of the best within a sport, which in itself will mean that she'll be at the pinnacle of all groundbreaking records within that sport, it must be a black person. This disruption will be met with actual tricks just to keep the sport under a lie that the best thing in it has to do with not skill, but skin. And all sports, top sport is white, and white people must be in it to be taken seriously or to be taken as sport at all. So blacks on their own hardly can establish any discipline or industry unless whites take it or take an interest in it. So to survive, we constantly have to seek white affirmation. This is the life of white masks that we must wear to be always accepted. What's not accepted in front of them doesn't survive. In this theater of white masks, those blacks who do not wear or succeed to put on the white mask, that is, attain white affirmation, often end up disappearing into the general necropolities we call township and homelands. They cannot be remembered. They are part of the rubble of human waste. To survive, one must take on a mask and be at the permanent mercy of the white establishment for what is good, what is smart, what is beautiful, what is modern, what is civil, and generally acceptable. To be black is therefore a conscious fight against the system of masks. It is to take on an existence that seeks to break out of this lie. It is to refuse the mask by confronting the conditions that make wearing the mask the only way to be in the world. Blackness is accepting the fact of our defeat, that we are hated and despised people, and mobilize against the usage of our black pigmentation as a tool to constantly mark us out as nothing, animal, primitive, naturally stupid, and uncultured. To mark you out as those beings that cannot be trusted with anything on their own, especially money, who must be in constant supervision. A black conscious life refuses to explain our suffering as a cause of our pigmentation. When we become conscious of our blackness, we invest our energy in attacking not each other as blacks, but the system that creates our blackness as a despisable and disposable image. That is why the criminal or corrupt officials who steal from other blacks are as idiotic as the whites who live off the exploitation of black people. Targeting other black people is idiotic but also cowardice. The black hero fights the system, the white establishment, the white value system. They do not participate in lies, reproduce lies in the form of tribalism, Afrophobia, and sexism. They know the economic power lies with the establishment. The mission or the struggle is to attain the means or the resources to re-author the image of blacks in the world. It cannot be done without the means of subsistence, without economic power. We continue to depend on those who call us and prefer us to be non-whites in order to achieve anything. The post-apartheid political order for 28 years refused to take economic power and author a new truth about black pigmented people, black-skinned people. It has relegated the task to the same markets that were built and sustained through black exploitation, which are white-owned and dominated. The post-apartheid order believes the system will transform itself. From the RDP gear up to the NDP, as macroeconomic practices and policies, the government of the day refuses to use state power to shift property relations. They hope that white people over time will realize and accept blacks as their equals and accommodate them in the patterns of ownership. Yet 28 years have passed and ownership in the economy has not changed. As an ideology, survives, evolves essentially as the form of self-supervision. Mandela's magic, the Reconciliation Project, based largely on Bishop Desmond Tutu's priestly naivety, has dismally failed. Instead, it serves as a justification for the continued theater of white masks for blacks, as an ideological support for whites to continue insisting on being white. Because as long as people are white, it means others must be black. This is by way of saying there is no solving the problem of anti-black racism through an appeal to the humanity of white people. We cannot invest any more time in the hope that whites will self-transform or will use their privilege to build an unracial economic and social reality. This is naive and it is dangerous. No amount of workshops, rules and guidelines are going to end anti-black racism if they are not aimed at economic power. It is disempowering to build an entire economic policy where the victims of racism must depend on their oppressors in order to find freedom. The whole post-apartheid racial order is a black government supervising blacks to be good blacks, to wear 9 white masks. We are free only to continue being non-white. Just without the tutelage of the racist corps and military and the racial segregationist laws of separate toilets under apartheid. The post-apartheid political order keeps blacks in this disempowered position in relation to economic control and ownership. We are free to be consumers, laborers, and anything else but owners and controllers of the means of production. The whole post-apartheid racial order is about the black government supervising us towards that direction. Racial discrimination of black people, their treatment as lesser people than whites, is the modus operandi entrenched in all institutions, from finance to schooling, even in prisons. In this way, the post-apartheid order is the greatest anti-black racist achievement, where we as blacks, through our black-led political institutions, preserve the status of depending on those who despise us in order to economically support anything we desire: art, sports, education, health, everything. It is with this understanding of racism and how it functions today in society, in post-apartheid society, that we took to the streets and engaged in a radical protest against H&M and Click's racist adverts. The adverts are central. The advert, or the advertisement as a craft, is central to the survival of many aspects of South African society: media, sports, arts, particularly music and film industry. Through the advert, capital looks for consumers and pays to keep audience fixed to its products. Black audiences are deliberately rated cheaply, they are despised, and they are easily dismissible. A white audience is expensive, sought after, and capital is willing to spend 100 times over for it, despite its small population numbers. The true racism of this industry therefore lies in how money is spent to keep black media owners a minority. In fact, as long as media is owned by blacks, it does not matter what its audience numbers are. Adverts will bill it less or ignore it with impunity. We shall demonstrate this later on. Let's go to clicks and the EFF campaign. It is a matter of public knowledge that in 2018, the retail store H&M published an advert in which a black boy was wearing a hoodie written "Coolest Monkey in the Jungle." This resulted in an international campaign against the store, which here in South Africa was led on the ground single-handedly by the EFF. Of course, others only satisfied themselves with tweeting or releasing statements from the comfort of their homes or offices to condemn the advert. Branches of the EFF, without waiting for the national leadership directives, staged protests inside H&M stores. The aim was to ensure that it was not business as usual, that the store was actually shutting down as a form of consequence for having insulted the dignity of black people. As the national leadership, we expressed great pride in our branches and this important insight that there must always be consequences on institutions that are engaged in anti-black racism. Accordingly, when Clicks Advert also published a racist ad in 2020 in which they described black hair as dry and damaged and white hair as normal, we took a nationally coordinated campaign along the same lines. We intended to shut down Clicks until they not only removed the advert and apologized, but also demonstrated practicable remorse, a form of reparations. Our protest led to the closure of over 800 Clicks outlets, both in the cities and rural South Africa, for 5 days. Clicks management tried to ignore the protest and unsuccessfully applied for a court interdict. However, in the end, they came to the table and agreed on the demands for consequences, a form of reparations for engaging in anti-black racism.